Welcome back to the Pick Show. Doug Lesmerises, Austin Ward, Bill Landis. We're making picks for the Cotton Bowl. Austin and Bill are in the desert of Texas. I'm in Ohio, and we are going to talk about this Ohio State-Missouri matchup. We're each going to make two prop bets for the Cotton Bowl, and then we're going to give you like a semifinal bet. So, January 1st, you have something to think about, Austin. Austin, we are not tracking anything anymore because
what? Why?
Well, you've won. You already got. Did you get the crown that we sent you? Did you get the cash money that we should give to you? As Bill noted, like everyone knows. I think this is a direct quote from Bill. Everyone knows that Austin is the king. So, like, what's the point of tracking anything anymore? But you did have a great. Did you think you had a very good year in college football betting, or is this just par for the course for Austin Ward?
No, this was batting above average. This was a big year. I'm really excited with the way that it turned out. It was profitable. And I think the cool part, Doug, was like getting some of those messages late in the year from some of the people on subtext. And you can text us that if you want to join up and talk gambling on the side with me if you want. Like this guy, said, paid for all my, law classes this year, whatever it was. I don't know, books and stuff. I'm like, that's awesome that people are taking my advice and getting rich and not listening to you two and going broke.
I do like the idea that
Doug and I got multiple people expelled from college for not being able to afford their tuition.
But when people listen to Austin and win money gambling, all they buy is books. We know that for sure. Like there's nothing else that the money goes towards. So we're educating America through Austin Ward's picks. This Cotton Bowl, it's about a 3 or 3.5 point spread. Ohio State is favored. Over unders 49. Landis, this line has moved so much, right? It opened and Ohio State was favored. Then I think people, when Kyle McCord transferred and people thought maybe a bunch of Buckeyes were going to opt out, Missouri was favored. Now Ohio State is favored again. Where this line has settled, Bill, does this feel about right to you? A field goal or so?
Yeah, it feels right to me. I was surprised. So we had that day in Columbus when like Denzel Burke and Emeka Egbuka and Jack Sawyer and all those guys told us that they were going to play in the Cotton Bowl. And I thought the line would move back to Ohio State on that day. And it still took like a week or so, I think, until it actually moved back in Ohio State's favor. And maybe it coincided with some news that Missouri was going to be missing a couple of key defensive players in this game. But yeah, I mean, if you're telling me these teams are more or less who they were going to be or who they have been throughout all of the season, and obviously there are some key guys missing, and we can talk about that. I think about a field goal makes sense for Ohio State on the neutral field to be favored. Yeah.
You look at the FEI ratings, what these teams have been through the season. Ohio State is the number 3 team in the country by those ratings. Missouri is 14th. Ohio State is first in defense, 13th in offense. Missouri is 20th in defense, 18th in offense. So again, okay, Ohio State's a better team during the course of the season. Missouri with 2 losses, Ohio State with 1. The whole thing of bowl season, Austin, is trying to figure out which team will be closer to the team that they were during the regular season. As Bill mentioned, a couple defensive starters missing for Missouri, including their best cover corner. No Kyle McCord for Ohio State, anticipating no Marvin Harrison Jr. What is your read, Austin, on trying to figure out which team will be closer to who they've been, or are they both going to be pretty close?
Ohio State's going to look different. And I think I've had a hard time kind of pinning down exactly what this game is going to look like for Ohio State. That's primarily because of the changes on offense. The defense, they got opt-ins, they got decisions and guys that appear to be coming back also for 2024. Like that group is outside of injury there for Tommy Eichenberg, and Lathan Ransom not playing, pretty healthy. They were pretty similar to the version that closed out the season that was, number 2 or 3 in most meaningful statistical categories defensively. Like that side's pretty good. And I feel okay evaluating that as it will be a carryover from the rest of the 2023 season for the Buckeyes on defense. Offensively, though, they've changed so much. It's really been hard for me to get a feel for what this might look like. Obviously, that starts with the quarterback, but it also includes not having Marvin Harrison Jr. and Julian Fleming at wide receiver. We'll see what the reps look like for Cade Stover. He hinted on Wednesday here in Dallas that, maybe it won't be every single rep because he's been working through some things throughout the course of the regular season. Chip Trainum's not out there. We've seen him be used in a lot of different ways for Ohio State. So that part looks very different. And I think that when I think about this game, and yes, Missouri's missing a couple key starters on defense. Like they I do think there is something to this element. That this is one of the biggest games that the Tigers have played, one of the biggest bowl games. The motivation factor, like there weren't anybody really opting out, making decisions about the NFL draft for them. They seem like they're going to be pretty close to the version that they were the rest of the year. But I still think even a slightly diminished version of Ohio State is more talented and better than the Tigers.
Bill, as we try to figure this out, this is what all Ohio State fans have been doing. So Austin was just running through guys like, as we try to think who's not going to play, right? So we know Kyle McCord's not going to play. Marvin Harrison Jr., everybody anticipates is opting out. Julian Fleming is transferring. So that's on the offensive side. Cade Stover might be limited. Defensively, Lathan Ransom is definitely out, and everything you guys have reported sounds like Tommy Eichenberg is still battling some stuff and may not play. Is there anybody else, Bill, that you think there's a chance when the lineups come out that a guy is sort of a last second, at least announced opt out? Like, is that on the table at all, or do you feel pretty confident all those guys are going to play?
I don't. I think I'd be surprised by that. I had some question, like when we first got here to watch practice, about what maybe JT Tuimoloau would do in this game, because if you like watch some of the drills we got to see, which wasn't a whole lot, but he like didn't do all of what was happening on the field. There were times where like he was standing off to the side with his helmet off, and other guys were running through drills. I think maybe the first practice we watched, he wasn't in full pads when most of the other guys were. So I don't know what to make of that. Like Jim Knowles said that he expects to have everybody who is healthy to play in this game. So maybe JT's the one guy that I'm kind of on alert for, but my lean at the moment is that he'll play. And aside from him, like I don't think so. That the one thing that I do wonder is like workload stuff, and which Austin alluded to with Cade Stover.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if JT plays, will JT play like 20 snaps? If Travion Henderson plays, will Travion Henderson only end up getting like 10 carries? That kind of stuff, I think, more than surprised opt-outs.
The one thing I think you do have to take into account is that Ohio State comes out and plays hard and plays well in bowl games. The last time they lost a bowl game that wasn't a playoff game was the Orange Bowl in 2013 when they ripped Braxton Miller's arm off, like in the first series, and he couldn't lift his arms anymore. So like that is, I think, part of this, Austin. I think I remember when this matchup first came out, I think you could argue this is Missouri's biggest bowl game since like 1970. And I think potentially it's as big of a game that Missouri has played sort of like in the modern era when you think about the 12-team playoff and trying to get momentum and like a new world opening up to this tier of teams. I do think this really matters for Missouri. I think you're right on that. But I think like Ohio State has proven over the years, Austin. I mean, you think about the last time they were in the Cotton Bowl against USC, Denzel Ward opted out. USC had Sam Darnold, and Ohio State came out and balled out. That has to be part of this factor, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good reasons that has happened for Ohio State. Like, we can look at it and say objectively that they were disappointed to be in the Cotton Bowl on Selection Sunday. But that's happened several times when they've missed the college football playoff for whatever reasons were justified at that time or not justified. But they've often, as the month has gone on, the talent wins out, the opportunity, the disappointment starts to fade, get out there and play again. Opportunities, whether that's for your own personal draft stock, whether that's for a springboard into the following season, whether that's a coach wanting something to feel a little bit better about, not have to have a couple game losing streak to hang over your head heading for Brian Day into 2024. They've often found ways to get motivated when initially you just say, well, there's no way, they don't care. This team, I do buy that they have bought in. They're so familiar with the way that New Year's Six bowls work. It's honestly, it's crazy, Doug. I mean, every year that I've covered this team since getting here in 2012, outside of the first year where they weren't eligible to go to a bowl game, they've been in a New Year's Six game every single year. That is astounding consistency. And I think there's also familiarity that comes with that. Even if the exact players are not the same, a lot of the way the week is managed, a lot of the expectations, the support staff, making sure that players are ready and taking that game seriously, or finding ways to get them to take it more seriously. They've been very, very good at that. We already know that they're one of the most consistent winners in all of college football, but it does show up pretty often in these settings where hey, if you have a long layoff and maybe teams are going to be rusty, I think that that's going to happen a little bit on Friday night for both of these teams after the layoff. Still, talent generally is going to win out in that circumstance. And Ohio State, in almost all of these games, winds up 1 through 85 in a better situation than their opponent.
Man, I started covering the Buckeyes in 2005. All I've wanted for 20 years is a Central Florida bowl game so I can go to Disney World in bowl season. They went to back-to-back Citrus Bowls in the mid-90s. They went back-to-back Outback Bowls in the early 2000s. And they've only gone to bowls that matter for the last 20 years, right? The Alamo Bowl in 04, and then the Gator Bowl in the chaotic season of 2011. Every other year, they go to one of the, the New Year's Six or the BCS Bowls, whatever stuff that matters. So they're here in the Cotton Bowl. It matters to Missouri, but it still means something to Ohio State. I think we've established that.
Yep.
So what's your pick? Austin Ward, how do you see this one working out?
Yeah, so I just side with the fact that Ohio State's defense was so consistent throughout the course of the year, and it's going to look, as I mentioned earlier on, I think pretty close to what it did throughout the rest of the year. Now, they didn't finish off in the second half the way they wanted to with those 4 drives against Michigan and losing the game. And, we don't have to rehash all that, but they're talented and I think they're motivated. I think they want to get things right, and the defense will travel more easily. I just really don't know what it's going to look like for Ohio State offensively. That's not Devin Brown could light it up. Ryan Day could decide to just really chuck it all over the place and try and do that against Missouri. I don't think that he will for a lot of factors, but namely the first start for a quarterback, you generally take a little bit more conservative approach. And I think Missouri's susceptible on the ground. So I kind of think this is going to be like a real slowdown slugfest that Ohio State wins 21-17 that goes well under. But the Buckeyes also cover at this new line that has fluctuated throughout the month. I thought it just feels to me like the 2017 Cotton Bowl.
Looking at what these teams have done, I don't know that I realized this during the year, but Ohio State didn't allow any opponent to score more than 17 points until the Michigan game. Right. So Michigan scored 30. Everybody else, they held under 17. But Missouri played a goofy game in week 2. They only beat Middle Tennessee 23-19. Every game since then, Missouri has scored at least 30. So this is Ohio State has not let teams score, but Missouri has been pretty consistent offensively. But also, I don't know, Missouri played Georgia. Missouri for a moment, I thought that maybe we're going to beat Georgia. But the fact that this is a real Ohio State defense, I think makes this score very possible. All right, Landis, what you got?
I kind of see it differently. I see a little bit of a higher scoring game here, which does run counter to what we've seen from Ohio State in its biggest games this season. Like the Notre Dame game went way under, the Penn State game went under. The Ohio State Michigan game was a little higher scoring compared to those two, but it wasn't a shootout. Yeah, it wasn't like teams were getting into the 40s. So I understand why this is at 49. I think Austin does make a good point about the teams perhaps being a bit clunky after basically having a month off. I think that's normal. But my lean is in college football when there are explosive offensive playmakers on both sides that those teams are going to score points. So I'm going higher with my pick here. I'm going 38-31 Ohio State, which is over a cover for Ohio State. And I think when Ryan Day anticipates a game being a little bit of a slugfest and ball possession and running the football and physicality or kind of the things that he thinks are going to come to the forefront, he tends to coach that way and kind of lean into it. And I don't know that he views this game as that. I think he looks at Eli Drinkwitz as a like-minded offensive guy who wants to be explosive and creative and try to put up a lot of points. And I think that Ryan Day will feel some kind of impetus to want to do the same in this game. So I think it does turn into a little bit of a shootout here. I think it could be a little clunky early, and maybe the second half is wildly entertaining with a bunch of touchdowns, and the first half is kind of a snoozer. I could definitely see it playing out that way. But I think the firepower on offense on both these teams is going to shine. Luther Burden and Theo Weiss and Cody Schrader for Missouri, and Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson. Maybe you get a Carnell Tate kind of breakout game here. Even with the new quarterback, I think Ohio State is still capable of something like that. So I like a higher scoring game, but still a win for Ohio State.
This is quite a contrast here. Austin's total score is Landis's score for just the Buckeyes. So this is two very different game scripts. We like to talk about game scripts. And then I have a very different game script because I'm going to pick Missouri. And I'm going to pick Missouri to win 28-24. And I think, do you guys agree with this? The Missouri combo of Brady Cook at quarterback, Cody Schrader at running back, and Luther Burden at receiver, that's the best quarterback, running back, receiver trio that Ohio State has faced this season?
Yeah.
I guess it's like Sam Hartman, Estime, Mitchell Evans as a tight end for Notre Dame, or is it J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson? I don't know. I think this might be better, though. It's
a interesting debate. I think the conventional wisdom would be the trio there with Michigan and going to the college football playoff. But I am not a big proponent of J.J. McCarthy's game. I think that, Missouri is probably in better position to take advantage of that. I don't Burton and Wilson. I think I'd probably take Burton there too. I mean, Missouri, I think you're probably right, Doug. I mean, this probably trumps that.
So that's good. So that, I think Missouri's for real. And then I think we have to be, this is my caution to Ohio State fans. I would not take Devin Brown's performance in this game as too much of a referendum on who the starting quarterback is going to be in 2024 or how that starting quarterback is going to look. I do just think it is a difficult situation for a guy who was hampered by an ankle injury during the course of the year, who's making his first career start. I know everybody's saying great stuff about him, but what else are they going to say? And I think maybe he maybe won't be great in this game and then could be great in spring practice and seize the job and lead Ohio State into the playoff next year. I just think it's a tough spot when you're going up against an offense in Missouri that, Cook has been through this a million times. And then all season, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the get out of jail free card. This isn't working. That isn't working. Go to Marv. Even against Notre Dame, it's okay, well, Emeka Egbuka saves that game. Trayvon Henderson saves that game, but it's, Marv is drawing attention during it and that kind of thing. And I just think that is a really tough combo. New starting quarterback and without the guy who makes every part of the offense work. And again, a Missouri team that scores in the 30s every week. So this is under 30 for Missouri, but I still think it's enough for Missouri to win. But I'm not I'm not pounding the table about that. I just want to give a tip of the cap. Bill, I think Missouri has some dudes, and I think, especially offensively, their dudes are playing. And I just think we have to remember how much Ohio State might miss Marv, especially with a quarterback who hasn't started before.
It's definitely you're right, because it's not just that they're missing Marvin Harrison Jr., who's one of the best receivers, or is the best receiver in college football, one of the best players in college football. It is true that the offense did not look great for much of the year when they kind of were in a funk and had to get out of it. McCord just kind of chucked it up to Marv to see what would happen, and it often worked. And now you don't have that security blanket. I do think maybe you could just chuck it up to Emeka Egbuka and might find similar results, right? Carnell Tate, right? I think that's on the table, but it is it's an unknown. I think there's comfort if you're trying to pick this game, and obviously it's not necessarily this way for Ohio State fans, but if you're an impartial observer trying to pick this game, there's probably more comfort in having a read on what you think Missouri is going to be in this game.
Yeah.
And less so with Ohio State, given all the changes on offense. And what Missouri has been all year is very good on both sides of the ball. Their defense is good too. I know they are missing two important guys, but it's been a pretty sturdy defense this season. And it's a team that's played, in big games in the SEC. So they're not going to be fazed by seeing the silver helmet out on the field either. So I think Missouri absolutely can win. This isn't a game where I think, it's Ohio State, only Ohio State can beat itself. I think Missouri is good enough to beat Ohio State.
So this is Bill and Austin taking Ohio State -3. I'm obviously taking Missouri to win, taking with the points, and then Austin is under, and Bill and I are over. And when we come back, we'll talk about prop bets. We were we said, hey, FanDuel has the props out, and I could hear Austin from Dallas shouting with glee that the prop bets were out, and we're going to reveal our prop bets for this game next on the Pick Show on the podcast. All right, let's do some prop picking. Austin, what do you got for us in the Cotton Bowl?
Oh man. Well, it's really been torture the last few days down here, Doug, because I don't have access to my accounts back in Ohio. So, I wanted, when I see something pop up, like, I don't know, Carnell Tate anytime touchdown at plus 320 on FanDuel, and I'm thinking, I'm just itching. I'm like, Allie, can you maybe log into my account back there and fire off a couple units? Because that's prime real estate right there. I think that maybe it's too much conversation about the Rose Bowl and the similarities between Marvin and Emeka getting those opportunities, and now Carnell Tate and maybe Brandon Ennis having that opportunity. But Carnell Tate is going to play a lot in this game, and I think that he's going to see a decent amount of targets. And then Devin Brown should have a pretty good feel for the chemistry with those two. I mean, they were down there maybe getting some of those 2 reps together and working together. Behind the starters throughout the year. I think Brian Hartline mentioned on Wednesday that they thought he was going to play a little bit more in September and October, but he had a little bit of an injury that Ohio State never really revealed publicly that could have kept him from maybe taking another step and pushing into that lineup. Maybe taking some of the work from Julian Fleming at times throughout the year. Who knows? But that opportunity is going to be there. I think that he's going to flash. And at that price, I definitely want to be involved with Carnell Tate. And I think that to shift gears, I don't know how much Ohio State's going to want to throw in this game. I know that deep down that's Ryan Day's mentality, and you want to see what Devin Brown can do. But as you mentioned with your pick there, Doug, it is still the first start against a good team. And I think that Ohio State's probably closer to its identity and what it already wanted to do with Devin Brown if it runs the football a lot more. So I think that Travion is going to have a heavy workload in this game. And the thing that flashed to me when I was looking at some of the Missouri defensive stats was they had a handful of very stout rush defensive performances, and then 2-3 that were really bad outliers. Florida in week 11 for them rushed for 261 yards, and LSU ran for 274 on this team. I think Travion is going to get 20-plus carries, and I've got him parlayed with a touchdown and over 125 yards for plus 134 on FanDuel.
Big play Trey at the plus 134. Bill, you had kind of mentioned this with Trey. Is there any reason to think that he wouldn't get the full workload for any health, just staying fresh? Because I was thinking about a lot of Trey stuff, and I'm not there. You guys are there, but I just didn't know about that. Is there any inkling of that in your mind, Bill?
Yeah, there. I mean, that's why one of my prop bets is that he'll go under the rushing total because I think he'll have a somewhat limited workload compared to what he normally gets in Ohio State's offense, and I think he's an injury-prone running back, right? It's like how much do you want to expose him to in this game, especially if you think like he's coming back next year, and we don't know that he is, but if you think he is, or if Ohio State that he is, and he's told you that. You don't want to do anything that could potentially derail your 2024 season by giving TreVeyon Henderson 20-plus carries in this game. So it was my second prop bet, actually, that TreVeyon would go under. It's 117.5 was his rushing total on FanDuel, which feels just like it feels high. Like he can still have a 100-yard rushing day and go under. So like that, I would be okay with that. I just think you're going to see a decent amount of Dallin Hayden in this game. And I think you'll see Devin Brown run the ball in this game. And it's not that I think Ohio State's going to struggle to run the ball, because I actually do think Austin is onto something with Ohio State wanting to run it. But I don't know if they want to just keep pounding TreVeyon Henderson into Missouri's defense in this game. So I'm going to take the under on his total rushing yards at 117.5. It's minus 114 on FanDuel, right? It's not like tremendous odds, but I just think like in terms of my game script, that kind of jive with what I was thinking. My other prop bet, it's another rushing based prop bet. It's 2+ touchdowns for Devin Brown, but it's really me thinking that Devin Brown's going to have 2 rushing touchdowns in this game.
And just to clarify, when it's a bet like this, like passing touchdowns are not what we're talking
does
about.
Does not count,
right? He has to be in the end zone.
Yes. So in theory, like a trick, you can run a trick play and throw the ball to him, I guess, and that counts. But this is rushing touchdowns in my mind for Devin Brown, who has one on the year, would have had 2 if he didn't fumble on the goal line against Purdue. came pretty close to having a third on the play where he got injured against Penn State. I think like if the ball was in his other hand, he would have scored a touchdown. And I think that him in the red zone is a weapon that Ohio State is going to want to use in this game. It's not something they could really do with Kyle McCord, and it is in Devin Brown's toolbox. And Ohio State has actually been a decent red zone team like toward the end of the year. So I expect that to continue in this game against Missouri, because when you have the quarterback run threat, it just makes life a little bit easier down there. And I think Devin has some work to do as a passer in those kind of areas of the field. But I feel like I've seen enough with that red zone package to feel confident in his ability to be a rushing weapon down there. And I do think Ohio State will tap into that. And at like plus 1,000 for 2 rushing touchdowns on a guy that Ohio State wanted to use as its red zone quarterback just felt like tremendous value to me. So I took that.
So you get if you bet $1 on that, what do you get paid?
$10.
10 beans.
10 beans, not 100. I was getting confused there. I was like, oh,
No.
wait, okay. This I'll do that for $100. Austin, I want to give you a chance because you did bet on Trey. You are expecting the full TreVeyon Henderson experience?
Yeah, I think you get to this game, and if you get a commitment and you say that you want to play, that you should treat it that way. That's the way they're talking about it. Like they say they want to win the game, and Ryan Day's saying, on Thursday during his final press conference, whatever it takes to win the game, it's just like any other one. I think if they start making, and I wouldn't blame anyone if they made concessions and said, just take 10 reps and we'll ease into the offseason. I would certainly understand that. I've talked about that for other positions throughout the month, but that has not been the approach in the way that Ohio State's talked about practices and game plans. Like, this is one that they want to win. And if that's the case, then you have to feature your best players in that. You can't I don't think you can go halfway. And if they will, I'll throw my hand up and say that I'm wrong. And they took a different approach than I was expecting. But if TreVeyon is sitting there, in AT&T Stadium talking to us on Wednesday and saying, I want to play and whatever it takes to get a win with my guys, that's what I want to do. So that's one part of it. And the other part is that Dallin Hayden is the only other option. So like somebody's going to have to run it. Even if Dallin could and should and needs to play in this game to take some of that stress off of TreVeyon Henderson's shoulders, we've already seen with the way that Ohio State managed his game count and the redshirt situation throughout the year that they don't seem to want to fully commit to Dallin Hayden in the lineup. So if that is the case and you don't want to move around Xavier Johnson a lot or whatever else, like that means that this is a TreVeyon showcase. And I guess that can backfire on me if they take the other approach. But I think he's committed to playing in this game, and that means that he gets to treat it like a normal.
Okay. I am also going to do some rushing touchdown stuff with my first prop bet. And I just, Cody Schrader, the Missouri back, who like by the end of the year, people in Missouri were like, he should get Heisman votes. Like, okay, I don't know. But he has 13 touchdowns this year. He's scored a touchdown in each of the last 9 games. And he alone is minus 138 to score a touchdown. So like, that's still money. Like if I don't know, if you're an Ohio State fan who really just wants to bet on a Missouri guy to score a touchdown, like he's a guy to bet on. But I wanted to do something beyond that. So I did a combo of a parlay of a Cody Schrader touchdown and one Devin Brown touchdown. And I was going to do TreVeyon, and I scared myself off TreVeyon a little bit, but I also just do believe, even with TreVeyon in the game, I do just think it makes sense that this is the whole thing. This is like this Devin Brown idea that you have a quarterback run threat in the red zone in a zone read where you can, fake it to TreVeyon and keep it. I went with Devin Brown. So it's a Schrader touchdown and a Brown touchdown plus 386 on FanDuel. And I actually like this like quite a bit. Like sometimes I make a bet and I think, God, you're dumb, Doug. But this one I actually believe in. Before I do my second prop bet, I did want to note, Austin, and I feel for your dilemma. And it's why I didn't go to Texas, because I was like, I can't leave a state where I can bet and go to a state where I can't bet. I'm surprised you guys agreed to go.
You've come so far in the last 3 months, Doug. It's amazing. I'm sorry for your addiction.
I hammered SMU against Boston College, and then Jeff Hafley just took my legs out from under me. So I had to be in Ohio to lose tens of dollars on SMU Boston College on Thursday. A bit of advice for you, though. Your daughter is in elementary school, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
My daughter is in college, so it's not the exact same thing, but I will tell you, I did have a phone conversation with my daughter this year where she was in a place where you could bet and I was a place you could not bet. And I had to talk her through, download the app, sign me in. Here's my password. Go to the game.
Yep.
Click on this. Here's the line. So I'm just gonna say, if a college student can do it, I'm sure a first grader could do it. If you don't want to ask your wife to do that.
Well, Liberty's going to learn at some point. I don't know if 6 is the time.
Yeah.
Because right now she's only playing with the phone. Like, we just have a phone that's not plugged in or charged, for her. But she's on the iPad a good amount. But you're giving me some good ideas. No, I'll wait. 9 is probably where we'll draw the line.
Yeah. I can see it's like she's going to start calling a cell phone like a betting machine. Oh, Dad, give me Daddy's betting machine.
Dad, what are we on today? What state are you in?
Please.
Carnell Tate? Got it.
Please gamble responsibly. Please gamble responsibly.
Yes, Liberty.
So
you can't log into my account.
So here's my password is. So here is my second bet, and I'm only doing this because I will say what happened last year with the picks for the Ohio State-Georgia semifinal is one of the more remarkable things that has ever happened to me in my time on the beat. So I am going to bet at least $1 at 170-1 on my exact score, which is what the odds are in FanDuel. You can bet exact scores. My score is Missouri 28, Ohio State 24. That's my prop bet. Bet the exact score. Because 1 year ago, when I was not here, Bill Landis was here, and I was on a different show. Bill Landis and I picked the exact same score for the Ohio State-Georgia semifinal, and we both nailed it. Landis, it's unbelievable that we both picked 42-41, and then Noah Ruggles is wide, and, that's not the point. It's not like, hey, all you really sad Ohio State fans, at least Landis and Doug got the score right. But it still was nuts, wasn't it? It was nuts.
I think it's probably the only time I ever got the exact score right. Yeah. Not that I'm celebrating it, but no, it was weird. It was weird because I think you and I had a phone call earlier that week because I was asking you hey, what do you think? What's your score? And I realized you and I both had the same score, which to me was a guarantee that it definitely wasn't going to happen that way. And it turned out that it happened exactly that way.
It was kind of a weird score too. I mean, so anyway, so at 170-1, and we couldn't bet in Ohio last year, so we couldn't have bet this last year. So I don't think I'm going to be alive for 170 more bowl games for Ohio State that Ohio State plays in. But I'm just going to, every bowl game for the rest of Ohio State's existence, I'm going to bet at least $1 on my exact score because I already did it and didn't win any money. So if you want to bet, but I the exact score bets on FanDuel are crazy, but sometimes, right. If you've just really, I think Berm did one this year. If you really think you've got it, I've got this game script nailed. I don't know. You throw $1 or $2 and try to hit 170-1.
What's the worst that can happen? You lose $1 or $2.
Yeah.
I mean, when you sent a peek at what you were sending out for the show this week on Wednesday night, we were at the brewery, and I yelped out loud. I was excited. This man picked the exact score for his prop bet, and I was like, where's our cash flow? Where's our bankroll? Is Doug trying to make a late play to take me down on this long shot? I'm like, no, he just feels good. And I love it. I love the confidence.
So again, I feel bad that it's my exact score is an Ohio State loss, but maybe I'll pick it 28-24 both ways and I'll bet $2. So those are our prop bets for the Cotton Bowl. And now we're going to give you one more bet for the semifinals. And we'll do that after this on the Pick Show on the podcast. So we like to dabble in other things, Austin. And so we're going to dabble. We have one dabbler. So you could do something with Texas, Washington. You could do something with Alabama, Michigan. I may have done something that combined both games. But Austin, what is your semifinal bet here on the Pick Show?
Yeah, I think Alabama is going to put a beat down on Michigan. So I have a same game parlay playing into that, which again goes back to I just don't think JJ McCarthy, he won the game again against Ohio State, but he got away with some things that I really don't think he should have. Talked to Denzel Burke this week as well about the interception that was a touchdown instead. Whatever. Clearly felt that call should have been overturned in Ohio State's favor, but he made some risky throws that I don't think are going to work against Alabama's defense. So I'm taking Alabama on the money line, parlayed with J.J. McCarthy under 185.5 yards, under 1.5 touchdowns, and then a Jalen Milroe anytime touchdown. I think it's got to be a certainty that he runs for at least one touchdown in this game against Michigan. For me, I know that not everybody agrees with this. Like, Michigan is the number one seed, and Alabama could have very easily not made the playoff if not for the desperation 4th and 31 against Auburn right before beating Georgia. But I mean, a month to prepare for Nick Saban feels like stealing to me, and I think that they're going to handle Michigan.
So, and again, it's not just how you think the game's going to go; it's your very direct, specific lack of belief in J.J. McCarthy coupled with that.
Correct.
So, yeah. Again, game script. All right, Landis, what's yours?
I have a 3-leg parlay on. I think for Perma Pennick grabs him by the horn. He's so tough, that guy. It's a 3-leg parlay on Washington in the Sugar Bowl against Texas. It's Washington on the money line. I think Washington's going to win the game. It's the over for Michael Penix's passing yards, which is 305.5. And over on passing touchdowns for Michael Penix, which is 2.5. So he needs 3 passing touchdowns to get that. I just don't like Texas's passing defense is bad, and it gives up a ton of big plays. And I just think like it's a bad matchup for Texas that has to go up against the most explosive passing offense in the country. Like I know Washington has had some struggles this year. It hasn't always played its best football, but I think with a month off, it's going to show up in New Orleans with a pretty good plan of how to attack that Texas defense and probably be a little healthier, Michael Penix included, and show us, if not the best version of that offense that we've seen this year, something close to it. And I'm expecting a really big day for Michael Penix, Rome Odunze, and everyone involved in that Washington passing attack. It's only plus 395, like for all 3 of these legs to hit. So like I think that shows you that it's fairly likely. Like it's not a ton of juice for 3 separate legs to hit in a parlay, but I just think it's a favorable matchup for Michael Penix and how he likes to operate and how Washington wants to attack teams. And it'll be a tough matchup for Washington on the other side, like trying to figure out a way to handle Texas's rushing attack and Quinn Ewers and all that. I'm not saying it's going to be like a runaway, but I think it's going to be like wildly entertaining, really high scoring, and Washington's going to win by virtue of its passing attack.
So we will note to people that we have pulled the Kings of the North content out of this YouTube feed, and it is now exclusively on the Kings of the North YouTube channel. And on that channel, Bill and I did a semifinal preview on Michigan, Alabama that went up on Thursday, and we will be doing a preview on Washington, Texas. That's going to go up on Friday. So if you had been watching or listening to Kings of the North within the podcast here, whether in podcast form or on YouTube, we're not gone. We just are in our own thing, in our own specific silo now. So if you're not subscribed on YouTube to Kings of the North, get subscribed. And we now have our own podcast feed too. So maybe Landis was a little confusing for people as we're migrating, but we just have a lot of stuff going on. We don't want to clog up everything, but we do have big time breakdowns. And you gave us a little tease of what you're going to say about Texas, Washington in that full hour-long preview that we'll eventually do. But people need to come with us.
Sorry, I muted myself because I've been coughing. When I just said in 2 minutes there, I will find a way to extrapolate into 1 hour. Yeah. So you have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
That was just the Cliffs Notes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm combining the 2 Northern semifinal teams for my parlay here, which is 3 touchdown scores. Blake Corum for Michigan has scored a touchdown in every game this year. So it's him to score a touchdown for Michigan. Dylan Johnson, the Washington running back, has scored a touchdown in 5 of the last 6 games, so it's a touchdown for him. And Rome Odunze, the All-American receiver for Washington, has scored a touchdown in 8 of 13 games this year. And, I don't know. If Washington doesn't get a touchdown from Rome Odunze, they're probably in trouble. So, again, it's not through the roof. Those 3 guys to score a touchdown, that parlay is plus 241. But, Northern rooting interests, it's the 3 dudes who are most likely to score for those 2 teams. And I also agree that I think the Washington-Texas game is going to be high scoring. And then, unless Michigan gets shut out, Austin, You're not calling a shut. You think Michigan? You don't think Saban's going to shut him out, do you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think Michigan will. Blake Corum and Edwards we know what they can do. The offensive line, they'll probably string together some drives and finish off in the red zone. But I don't think that Michigan can win through the air.
So if they score it all, it'll be with Blake Corum. So that's my bet, plus 241 on FanDuel. All right, that's going to do it for the pick show. What do we have going on that people can expect on game day on Friday, Austin? What are you guys going to be doing before the game?
We've got a bold prediction, so we've got a little bit more. Obviously, diving into the Cotton Bowl, that'll be on the podcast daily to kick off Friday morning, and we'll be at AT&T Stadium in the middle of the afternoon, taking the first shuttle over there, so we can get some pregame keys and maybe get the final details on the availability report if Marvin Harrison Jr. decides to grace us with an announcement before game. I'd like it. I think I can speak for all three of us. We were all working, in separate different places then. I didn't love having to write about Denzel Ward opting out 5 minutes before kickoff. I thought that was not the ideal way to handle the announcement since, anyway. But anyway, we're going to get into all that. We're going to have the pregame keys. The three of us will get there, get set for the game. We'll have the notebook and snap judgments afterwards, just like any other game. And honestly, I can't believe this is the end of the 2023 season. It's been really fun. I've had a great time with some of the new stuff we've done. Certainly, this show included in the notebook. So I want to do it up as best we can because we're not going to get to do this again until September.
And by the way, if you want to subscribe to the text, we always do a 2-week free trial for the people who are doing it for the first time. You can get like all the stuff that people we're going to be texting during the game and saying like, hey, here's the information. Here's what we think as you're watching the game. It's a nice little supplement. If you want to sign up just for the game, and then you can drop it the day after if you want. Although there's going to be probably a pretty newsy January with guys making NFL decisions with potential portal action. So actually January is not a bad time to be a tech subscriber. It's a 2-week free trial. You send a text to this number, 614-662-4509. You get back a link to sign up. And also join us post-game. I will be doing a post-game show here from my house in Ohio. And Bill, if you can, you will be joining the post-game show, hopefully for part of it, unless they have to just tear the stadium apart to get ready for the Cowboys and they throw you out.
Yeah, the difficulty will be finding a spot to do it because the way that Berm has described it, they're going to tear that place down to the studs the second the Ohio State-Missouri game ends. So I might have to get creative. But, yeah, I would like to join if I can. But regardless, it's going to be, I think, like heavy text subscriber kind of reaction to the game and like what comes next for Ohio State.
Yeah. So we will look forward to you guys joining us for that. It's been a great year. It's a super interesting team to cover. And this is it's not what Ohio State fans wanted, but it's a pretty darn interesting game to end this season. So thanks for Jeremy Birmingham for making us sound good and look good with all the fancy graphics and such. He's Austin Ward. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises. And that was the Pick Show on the podcast.